Welcome back to the Conveyance Desk. In Episode 1, we mapped the overall transfer sequence. In Episode 2, we covered developer clearance. In Episode 3, we demystified the trustee appointment. In Episode 4, we covered document errors, including what to do when the error is created by the system itself. Today is Episode 5, and this one is about the real cause of many unexplained delays: banks and managers' checks. Quick reminder, this is general educational content, not legal advice. Every transfer has variables, developer rules, financing terms, authority requirements. So use this as a guide, then validate your own case. Here's the framing. In Dubai, transfers checks are not optional. They are always required. They are the settlement instrument. So in mortgage-involved transfers, the deal does not move at human pace, it moves at bank pace, because the bank controls the checks. 1. The core idea. In a mortgage purchase, the buyer's intent is not enough. The seller's patience is not enough. The trustee appointment is not enough. Completion depends on one thing: the bank producing the right checks on the right day, in the right form. And when this fails, sellers get blindsided, because sellers expect the money on a known day. Then the day arrives, and it isn't ready. That is not a minor delay. That is the transfer not being executable. 2. A note on how payments actually work at trustee. Let's be precise. At the trustee appointment, the government and trustee fees are paid by card in the appointment room. That part is straightforward. But the purchase price settlement still depends on checks. So if the bank side is not ready, you cannot solve it at the trustee. The trustee appointment is an execution window, not a bank branch, not a place where bank readiness is fixed. 3. Why banks slow transfers in practice. Here's what happens in the real world. Some banks are operationally slower than others, and this is especially common with banks offering the most competitive rates in the market. The buyer thinks, I have an approval, so I'm ready. But approval is not readiness. Readiness means checks issued, amounts confirmed, names correct, and all bank conditions fully satisfied. Banks will not issue or release checks until conditions are satisfied, even if everyone else is ready, even if the contract shows a target date, even if the seller is waiting. So the transfer timeline becomes a bank timeline. 4. The main failure mode. Check issuance is treated as automatic. Many buyers assume the bank will produce checks on transfer day as a routine step. But in practice, check issuance is a gate. It requires internal approvals, cleared conditions, and often pressure. So on transfer day, the buyer arrives expecting completion, and the seller arrives expecting funds. Then everyone discovers the checks are not ready. Sellers rarely see this coming, because it is not their bank, and it is not their process. 5. Contract timelines, and what happens in real life. Another quiet issue is timing language versus timing reality. Banks are often comfortable letting timelines stretch. A contract can expire on paper, but in practice, it is simply extended, and everyone waits. That is manageable, but it is stressful, because sellers plan around dates. So the job is not to argue with the bank. The job is to prevent the bank timeline from surprising the seller. 6. What we do. First, on mortgage buyer cases. Our first port of call when commissioned on a mortgage buyer case is simple: an immersed appraisal of readiness. Not optimism, not reassurance. Readiness. We confirm what is outstanding. We confirm what the bank still needs. We confirm what the buyer must pay. And we confirm what timeline the bank is actually capable of. Because the goal is not to book an appointment, the goal is to complete. 7. Best practices to avoid bank-caused delays. Here is the practical approach. Start with one principle: checks are the transfer. So work backwards. Confirm the checklist early. Confirm exact pay names. Fee required for issuance. Confirm the bank has every document needed to release. And keep one rule: if the checks are not confirmed, the execution window is not real. Confirm amounts. Confirm issuance lead time. Confirm the buyer has paid every bank. 8. Closing. In mortgage transfers, delays are often bank delays, and bank delays are often check delays. So treat check readiness as the central gate. Protect the seller from surprise, and keep the process legible for everyone involved. In the next episode, we'll cover timelines, what fast actually looks like, what is controllable, and where delays usually originate. That's all for today. This was the Conveyance Desk.